Hi, Andrew Williams, President and CEO of New Pacific Metals, company that's advancing two world-class silver deposits in Bolivia.
Andrew, good to see you again. You did mention this last time we were here. You'd be delivering the Carangas PEA study, and here we are. It's been delivered. What's the reaction been?
Yeah, it's been positive. I think it's we're very pleased with the result and the feedback from investors and a lot of marketing since releasing the study. And I think folks are very happy with the numbers, the fact that the economics are strong, right? $500 million of net present value, but it's also a project with a manageable capital cost that we can finance. So $324 million of capital for $500 million of NPV, 6.5 million ounces of silver production over a long mine life, and I think and that's at $24 silver, right? We run it at $30 silver, and those numbers improve by about 50%. You get $750 million of NPV. The IRR jumps further. So on paper, we put another great world-class buildable, financeable project on the board within our company here at New Pacific. So yeah, the feedback's been across the board positive.
And do you know what? It might be interesting just to remind people about the Silver Sand PFS numbers as well, because I think combined, as you say, there's something quite substantial here, which I want to get into. So if you don't mind, can you sort of remind us?
Yeah, I mean, it's the Carangas project, the economics are scanning, but it's actually our second best project. Our Silver Sand project, PEA numbers, again, $24 silver, were $740 million of NPV. And so then you add the value from this Carangas project, $500 million, you're looking at $1.3 billion of NAV at $24 silver, which gets you close to probably $2 billion in today's silver price environment. So we've now de-risked and delineated technically two really chunky silver discoveries that collectively, when producing together, will produce about 18 million ounces of silver from our company, which is as much or more than most silver companies are producing today.
They're not sort of, well, how many kilometers are they apart?
Oh, they're in different states within they're probably 10-hour drive from one to the next.
Right, exactly. So they sit as standalone projects in their own right. I think we talked last time out about how you as a company, a $500 million company now, can move those through the phases. One's a PFS, Silver Sands, and obviously the other's just PEA. But are there any kind of economies here, or is there other ways to play that?
No, I mean, just given that they are in different parts of the country and also different flow sheets. So Silver Sand will produce silver doré bars through the Malcro process. Carangas will produce concentrates, a silver lead concentrate, a zinc concentrate. So there'll be separate flow sheets. I'd say that the biggest potential for scale economies, it's harder to see as an investor. But it's really on first of all, the tax. I mean, there's some tax advantages to having two projects that you can build successively, but also the people, right? I think what's awesome is that we've got a team that we've assembled through our Silver Sand experience that we're now moving and remobilizing across two projects. We also have learned a heck of a lot about operating in Bolivia at our Silver Sand project, and we're applying all of those learnings to our Carangas project. And so I think having our team that we can move around to a couple of different projects in the country, really, that's where we see a big part of the advantage.
Right. Okay. And if I look at that in terms of how this thing moves forward through the phases, right? So you kind of, it's been I think, an okay response, to what you're saying. And maybe people were expecting it to be okay. These are good numbers, and to say put in 30 or $32 silver, kind of exceptional. So grade and the assets good, and I think the team seem to have delivered now 2 in a row. So perhaps you don't need to worry about that. The thing that people perhaps do keep coming back to, and as you say, you've been learning how to operate in countries, like permits, licensing, social licensing, getting that mine license approved and over the board. How are you managing that in a context where we're looking into elections at the end of next year? Is it positive?
Yeah, and sort of your question on how you manage that, I think there's a certain element of patience and persistence, right, at both projects. and really anywhere around the world, you can only move as fast as the community moves, and you can only move as fast as the government moves. And so you have to be sort of patient, but persistent, and follow up, and be structured and disciplined in how you engage with people. That's really key. And being respectful of what people really want. And so I'd say that's really the key is having patience, but also being persistent. It's kind of, that unfortunate phase in a company's development cycle in the mining industry where we don't have sexy drill results that are splashing over our press releases every few weeks like we maybe did 3-4 years ago. But this is really that time where we put our heads down and focus on delivering those community agreements, those environmental permits that are really the key value driver for us now as a company. And that's what's really going to unlock the inherent value. Again, we talked about $2 billion of NAV in both of our projects. How do we get from where we stand today, which is a fraction of that, up to those kinds of numbers? And it's really by delivering on these permitting milestones and these community relationship milestones that we're committed to.
Right. So I keep going back to, if I'm looking at development plays, I need to understand there's a process in place, that the process is being adhered to, and indeed, quite frankly, understand what the process is, because it's slightly different from country to country, from province and state to state, etc. For you guys, can you sort of be clear and sort of let us understand where you are in that process, and if it is just a process, and that there are no roadblocks?
Yeah. So at both projects, the process goes land lease agreement with the local communities. So we own the subsurface mineral rights. We don't own the surface rights. So we are in the process more actively at our Silver Sand project, just because it's more advanced, negotiating with the local community our land lease agreement. And then that land lease agreement is the key input then to submit our environmental license. There's a little bit more data that we need to collect for our environmental license at Silver Sand. It's not a lot. We've already got a substantial body of environmental data. And so we take that land lease agreement and then some additional information that we collect environmentally, and we submit that in our EIA. And then that goes off to the Ministry of Environment and Water in Bolivia, and they're the ones that will ultimately approve the environmental license. And we've actually got a mining license already at Silver Sand. We just need the environmental permit. So it's community agreement, environmental permit submission, environmental approval. So that's the process that we've got left at Silver Sand. Carangas is earlier. Again, we just discovered Carangas in the second half of 2021. So it's still a relatively nascent project as far as development goes, but we've been advancing this in parallel over the last couple of years. So at Carangas, same thing, community agreement, land lease agreement, environmental submission, and we've already collected environmental data through one wet season, one dry season. We're going to need a little bit more data, and then environment submission to the Minister of Environment and Water. So that process mirrors what we have to do at our Silver Sand project, but at Carangas, there's an extra step involved in that where we've only still got an exploration license. And so we need to convert that exploration license into a mining license. And then once we've got that mining license, we can then make our permit submission and our environmental. So there's a little extra step at Carangas. At Silver Sand, we've already got our mining license, so we still have to go through that process at Carangas. But I mean, that's the thing with Bolivia is it's a mining jurisdiction, and the mining code is by and large unchanged for what's been for many, many decades when mines have been successfully permitted and built. And so the process is fairly well defined, and we've got some great people on our team now in Bolivia that really know the regulations well and are guiding us through this process.
Right. But you said to me last time out that obviously there haven't been any new mines built in some time, 10, 15 years or so, right? So, and people change, attitudes change, etc. And I want to be clear about this, because I think the upside is significant if you guys continue along this path. I want to be clear that there's no hurdles to overcome which are insurmountable. So if I look at what on the social license component, when you're getting those kind of surface access agreements in place, what are the locals looking for? Is it to understand how are they going to be road schools? What's the upside for them, and also what's the downside for them? Or are they honed in onto the EIA as well? I mean, what are those conversations like?
What's interesting about both projects is you go visit both projects, and it's not like they're not traditional town. Like Carangas is more so of a town with some people living in it, but it's still not a huge facility. I mean, Silver Sand, there's very little, very few of the community members actually live in the community. A lot of them have many years ago left because there just is no economic opportunities in and around the site. And so I think there's an element of, I mean, let's just the elephant or in compensation, financial compensation. They want to get paid for the land, and as they should be, because at the end of the day, we're proposing open pit mines, and there's going to be some. We're going to permanently change the environmental landscape, and so the financial compensation for that is probably the most significant part of the negotiation. Jobs is also a really important aspect of it. I mean, a lot of the voting community members that we're dealing with are a little bit older, and so their interest in going and working in a mine is maybe not as significant as it would be for the younger folks, but for their kids, I mean, for them, they see this as a really an amazing opportunity for their kids to be able to live and work in their in parts where their ancestors are and where they come from traditionally. So I mean, that's more applicable for the younger folks in the community. And then I mean, there's also the small resettlements that'll be required at both sites, a little bit more at Carangas. Silver Sand, there's not a lot, but just making sure that folks are made whole and brought into areas that for them are really that are sort of on par or better from the current conditions that they're in. And then just the last piece at Silver Sand, there's also some our chisel mining that's been going on there for a long time, and that finding a permanent and sustainable solution for where those folks will go and how they'll be sort of made whole. That's another really important piece of the equation at Silver Sand that doesn't apply at Carangas, just given the nature of the landscape and the deposit. But there's various factors at both. No site's unique. No mining project is a carbon copy of any other one. They've all got their own nuances, and that's part of the reason why it takes so long, and persistence and patience is required for us to work through these issues systematically in a way that'll lay a foundation for what'll be 15 to 20 year plus mining operations.
Okay, so you've been through one mining license application successfully. You will have to go through that again. Carangas, obviously, I say slightly different nuances to that. With the EIA, which is kind of you'll have to do with both, given the country hasn't had new mines there for some time, is that process well defined and understood in country with the people capable of making decisions based on what you submit?
Yes, but it just takes a little more time in terms of socialization. I'll give you a concrete example. Like at our Silver Sand project, we got the mining license. Carangas, but that mining license at Silver Sand was grandfathered in because the mining code was updated slightly in 2014, and Silver Sand already had a mining license under the old code, so that was grandfathered into the new mining license. But Carangas, because we free staked the project from the government, it was an exploration license. So we are now, so the mining code, as it was defined, said that this is how you go from an exploration license to a mining license. Great, but how the mechanics of that process actually work, as we started to socialize it and go through it with the regulators, it became clear that there wasn't actually prescribed guidance from how you go from exploration license to a mining license. So we've had to work with the government, and this is coming from the local community up through the state level government up to the Ministry of Mines, and they collaborated together to actually pass a ministerial resolution that outlines just exactly how you go from an exploration license to a mining license. So this is a positive outcome from the collaboration that we've done with the local governments and working with the federal governments to take this parts of the mining code that are a little bit newer and really streamline them and make them operational. So yes, it does take a little bit more time because there are elements of the mining code that are a little bit newer, but there's also a lot of it that's historic and has been around for a while. And again, Bolivia is a mining country. It's so these guys, they all know and are familiar with San Cristobal, with San Vicente, with Manquiri. And there's a lot of institutional mining knowledge within Bolivia. So I mean, it's not like we're starting from zero, but you're right. I mean, it is a little bit rusty as far as the country's concerned, and that's why that's a big part of our job is helping those in government continue to move these projects forward because they're motivated to do so because the country really needs the investment.
Right. Okay. And so this whole conversation for me is like, like I say, you don't need to demonstrate your technical ability or anything like that here. This is for me about saying how do I and when do I enter into this project, because you've started the economic studies on both. Your job now is to tighten up the understanding of the economics, which will require, I guess, some continued drilling. Are we? Is a little bit of infill data, or are you done?
Hydrological and geotechnical drilling.
Okay.
But projects, majority of the resources are indicated, measured and indicated at Silver Sand, and indicated with a touch of inferred at Carangas, but not a huge amount more.
Okay. So not a huge amount of money to be spent on that side of the equation. This is really, for me, as an investor looking in, this is about the time frame to get both of these over the line to see this step change. Now you refer to this kind of step change too in your deck. You give an example of like 2, 3, 4 or 5 examples where other companies have been where you are, and you see on the charts, which I think it's over different time frames. So there's a few variables there, but there is a significant step change once you've kind of got these. Are you putting that to just the mining license, or is it delivery of your DFS, or when help me work out when I should be entering this investment opportunity?
I mean, now. I mean, I've seen this time and time again. Is you wait till I'll buy once this milestone is achieved, or I'll buy once that milestone is achieved. The challenge is that once that milestone is achieved, the stock runs, and then you go, oh shoot, okay, missed that one. I'll wait for the next one, and then when that one happens, everyone else is anticipating the same event, and that anticipation bends the stock price up, and I mean, that's the to be an investor, be a successful investor, you have to be a contrarian, and when we're kind of in this mode right now where we're grinding away, going after environmental permits. I mean, the spread between our intrinsic value and our market capitalization today is as big as it's ever going to be, and we're going to continue to close that gap as we deliver on those milestones. And as we do, our share price, I'm confident, I've seen it before, it will accrete. And so, I mean, again, if you're willing to, if you're after the highest potential return, I mean, there's no better time than today to get in. Obviously, the longer you wait, I mean, you can wait all the way till we're in production if you want, but the available returns will be lower because the stock will have re-rated, but your risk profile will be lower. So it's also, as an investor, is how much risk and reward do you want to take on, and where's your preference along that continuum?
Okay, so given the work left to be done on both, can we just sort of be clear on what those things are, what's important, how much is it going to cost, and how do you fund that to get to the point of, say, a DFS on well, I assume one we'll get a DFS on Silver Sands.
We had about US $20 million in cash at the end of June, our last filing, and we're probably I think we've got spending about $1.5 million a quarter US. So I mean, you run that down. We got a long runway here at this current pace of permitting project development. So really nice long runway. We don't expect that it'll take us to the end of that runway to have some community agreements and environmental permits. But what we've been telling our investors is we're going to not go those next steps on those feasibility studies, which are rough numbers. Maybe the silver sand costs us $5 million, and Carangas will cost us $5 to $10 million for fees. So anywhere from $10 to $15 million to have 2 feasibility studies at both projects. We're not going to embark on those investments until we've had some more concrete success on our community relations and our environmental permits. Just we really want to get that across the line first, deliver on those milestones before we take that next step of spending. And the nice thing that we do there is that we don't really commit to those next big funding milestones until we've got some positive news and our share prices has reflected that and our cost of capital is reduced before spending that next chunk on feasibility studies. That'll really be the next big funding milestone at both projects before project construction.
Okay, makes sense. Makes sense to me. Okay, and look at the share register. It seems to be as was. No one's selling down too much. No pressure from there. So current feedback from analysts, it seems quite positive as well, does it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just there's just not very many silver developers out there with this kind of scale silver production, right? 18 million ounces of silver combined both projects. We're seeing some recent M&A activity in our sector, which have really set some staggering valuation benchmarks for what an operating silver mine is worth. And so, I mean, we're encouraged that the landscape is advantageous for silver developers with ounces in the ground like we have. And I think the analyst sentiment generally reflects that view.
Yeah, I think so. I think that silver crystal kind of everyone took a deep intake of breath on that one. That was a heck of a number put out there. It gives a sense of what's happening in the space, and I think Mexico starting to make some noises as well. We shall see what happens there. Well, Andrew, I appreciate the update. Sounds like things are going well. We will be obviously following with great interest. And anyone looking to wants to know more, I guess they can reach out to you and your team.
Sounds good. Matt, nice catching up with you again.